Hi everyone. We're from the National Acoustic Laboratories, and today we're going to introduce to you Easy Switch. Easy Switch is a credit card comparison site, and we've designed 4 special features which we think will guarantee the success of this site. These include a fast health check, the use of financial incentives, user-driven choice filtering when you're on the site, and also an auto switch service. And we're going to talk you through these 4 features today.
Okay, so we've really focused on the brief looking at the challenge of getting people to engage with the switching process. So in doing that, the way that we've approached the task is looking at the journey that the client goes on in terms of thinking about whether they wish to switch and what the process is in undertaking that. So for a user, first of all, they've got to have a decision about whether they consider switching. They might visit comparison sites, think about importing their data, compare the relevant options that are available to them, and then ultimately make a bit of a hassle analysis. Is this worth my while? Is there value to me? Is there benefit? So along this process, we're focusing on looking at ways to improve the engagement in the process at each of the stages, but we've also identified 4 barriers, 4 roadblocks upon this journey, where people might fail, have to make a decision, decide, hey, it's all too hard and we want to opt out. And this is what we're focusing on. So we're looking at situations where maybe even getting to that first hurdle is too difficult because the savings are too far in the future. Looking at whether they know about the deal that's available and whether they can actually compare about whether that deal is useful to them or not. And finally, looking at a very specific example of hassle that may be associated with credit cards in terms of linked payments for credit cards. So I'm the person who comes up with all the problems, and my friend here, Liz,
I focus on the solutions.
Okay, so the first problem we're looking at is this idea that people might be under an impression that actually my deal's pretty good. They may have a misperception that my deal's pretty good. There's no need to go looking for anything else. There's probably not a lot of value to me in switching. I'm probably already in the top 10% of the cards available. The value of switching is probably pretty low. And, I don't really see the point. So there's 2 places where this could cause a problem in terms of engaging with the site, but also we want to, if they get there, be really quickly aware of whether or not it's worth continuing, because people are going to give up fairly quickly otherwise.
So the way we've dealt with this bias is to introduce a fast health check. So as soon as the person consents to the site using their data, the site uses that to instantly provide information on 2 metrics for the user. And so those 2 metrics are to show them that their current credit card is not, or is, where it ranks basically in terms of other choices that are available. And it also instantly gives them the annual savings that they could be eligible for.
The next difficulty is that when they're coming to that decision point is that there's just choice overload. So there's many complex choices that need to be made. There's a lot of choices that need to be made. For many people, a high level of financial literacy or even a high level of literacy is required, and decision making. And that just process of going through choice after choice can lead to decision fatigue and disengagement with the process. And the ideal situation is that you don't want them disengaging with that process too early, where they might actually need to present the most salient information.
And the solution which addresses this problem is filtering and funneling. So throughout the site, we've got spots or points at which people can look at the default data that they've been presented, but then also go back in and change features and personalise that data for themselves, control the amount of detail that's presented, and restrict the number of options that they're looking at any one time. And so this wireframe is just an attempt to show what the site might look like. So the person has consented to give their data. So the site has information like the current annual fees or the current interest rate that the person is on. It knows about their spending habits. And on the basis of that information, it gives them a message. This is the instant or the fast health check. So in this case, it says of 200 credit card products which are available, 87 of them actually a better option for you. So it instantly ranks the person's status quo credit card product and tells them that there's better option for them out there. They could save up to $750 a year. At this point, the person could then go in and refine the features of the credit card products that are going to be made available. So they could do things like ask for credit cards which have reward programs, for example, things like that. Once they've decided that they've got the right set of options, they can say, okay, show me the top three. Only three are shown. Very limited information is shown about them. So you have the annual savings, you have some key features. And then down the bottom, we've introduced this idea of a convenience rating. So the website would make a calculation based on, is this a bank that you already deal with, or is there an automatic application process? Some of those hassle factors, and it gives you a little indication about how difficult it thinks it would be for you to switch to that particular product. And all in both of these steps, filtering and funneling is possible.
Okay, one of the hassle factors that we identified as being a difficulty is that for many people there's an admin sort of component attached to switching. I've got all of my regular payments linked to my credit card. I've got automatic payments coming out. I've got my PayPal account linked. So even if I'm going to save money, I risk that I might be getting hit by other fees because I'm going to miss one of those payments. And so that's a really potentially a big barrier to some people.
And the feature we designed to alleviate this problem is an auto switch service. And so this is a service whereby the site actually offers to provide for the user the list of all those linked payments. So it does all the hard work for you. It can produce an inventory which you can then use to change all your regular payments. Alternatively, for a fee, auto switch service will actually do all that porting for you. So it will contact all your third parties and switch over your card so that there's a seamless switching happening there.
Okay, so all of those solutions were sort of from the point where you've already maybe made the decision to start considering switching. We've also got a bit of a roadblock happening in terms of people might say, well, I don't even think that I need to do this. Any savings I'm going to get are in the medium to long term. And there's a really low incentive now to actually do the process and undertake the process now. And so what we want to do is bring forward some of those benefits and give them an advantage to actually acting in the present, in the current time frame.
And this is where our financial incentive idea comes in. And so at that initial stage, at the fast health check, the site looks at the potential savings that people could make if they switched. And based on that amount that they could save, the person is offered either an upfront payment, which is something like $50, and if they already have a really good credit card option, then they get a consolation fee as well. The added benefit of this is that it would become also an evaluation metric. So by looking at how many people are offered that financial incentive, whether they switch or not, or whether they switch to a better product or not, that becomes the metric by which you can see whether the switching site is working, and this can be used on a short-term or long-term basis.
And just because we couldn't fit everything into 10 slides, we also have a number of other features that we identified as potentially useful in terms of how we could prompt people to come back and engage with the site, and they can opt to be followed up at specific times, but also how they could commit to making a commitment to themselves to switch at a future time.
Thanks, guys.
So I think you looked a lot into how to making switching easy. What are your considerations about how to know that people actually know what they do and really engage with this, being fully aware? So a second challenge.
Sorry, with engaging to start that process. Yeah. I guess, well, we've focused on a belief, one small part of the behaviour in terms of they're already thinking about switching and not at that sort of end point, so we haven't got too much to say probably about that. Having said that, our social messaging, as this rolls out, this social messaging idea here would be something that could be promoted out to attract new users and perhaps get them thinking about switching. Similarly, the trigger prompts are the milestone moments we were talking about. For some people, buying a house is a time when they might be thinking about how they're going to refinance and whether they're going to change their credit cards. So advertising on Domain or sites like that for weddings, on wedding sites where there's key times in the life that they might be on those sites, so you could be advertising to bring them on board.
The other question would be, you wanted to give out money as well. Where does it come from?
Hey, you noticed that, huh? So we do have a couple of ideas. I guess there was that idea in terms of leveraging the fee-based service for switching, which we think would be, for a lot of people, would be quite valuable as well. Did you have some?
Yeah, so we could take the income that's coming from auto switch and apply that to the financial incentives. The other idea we had is that, you know, if people are switching credit cards halfway through, say, their annual fee period, the system could require that all the banks refund those unused annual fees, put them into a central fund, and then that could be used to fund this site and fund any incentives which will create greater engagement with the whole process.
Thank you, guys.